Hello, welcome everybody. It is Tuesday, November 4th, and we are excited to have our community call today with a special guest, Lila Tresemer, who we met on the road trip in Boulder. In fact, we started the road trip in Boulder because we heard about this thing called the StarHouse. And we had these friends, the Bairds, who live right near the StarHouse, and just all of a sudden, I'm going on a second trip to Boulder and staying with Lila and talking about different things, and we just found each other and like really enjoying a friendship. And so as we welcome her, I want to do it by way of like sharing an experience from the land that she's been part of stewarding for 35 years. So the Star House is a nonprofit. It is a community gathering space. It is constructed in alignment with sacred geometry and the cosmos and the zodiac and the seasons. And it's this most extraordinary physical structure. So there's like a big harmony with the cosmic towers and the Star House. And so when I met Lila, that day I got a little tour of the Star House and I saw this, what do we call it, Lila? Double tetrahedron swing? Is that good language?
Yep.
Okay. I saw this double tetrahedron swing, which is like 16 or 18 feet off the ground in total. And it's got a shelf that you sit on in the middle. And I was like, I want to go on the swing. I want to go on the swing. So I went back to Boulder and we had this brainstorming session with a half dozen of us walking around the Star House land and getting to know what it's like to be in space with sacred geometry, with natural structure that supports life. And I noticed as we were going around the land that I got really quiet, like I had very little to say. And the brainstorming was going on and I just kept being quieter and quieter. And then we ended up in one of the buildings on the land called Morningstar. And I really felt like my part of the conversation was missing. And we went to change rooms. And as we were changing rooms, I got this like download, this hit that if I stood in a certain place in the room, the part of the conversation that I was not articulating would be articulated. I was like, okay, I mean, I'll stand there, but I still don't feel like talking. And so I went to this countertop and I leaned my body on it. And I think Lila was speaking at the time. And literally within 5 seconds of putting my body in that space, Lila turned toward me and began articulating the part of the conversation that would naturally come out in my voice. And then the other person in the front of the room with her, they both talked back and forth between themselves, looking at me to see if they were getting it right. And it was the most powerful lesson I've ever had, that the structure creates what happens. And so literally I would suggest that that conversation was in the quantum field and it was going to happen. And since I didn't want to talk, all I had to do was get in right alignment and it was spoken. So that's the type of land that Lila has been stewarding for 35 years. And we have some amazing concepts to explore together. So Lila, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And maybe you could just tell people a little bit now in your words what StarHouse is, or complement, some of what I shared.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Patter, for the welcome and the connection, and to all of you on the call or listening later. I do feel like telling the story is a bit indicative of how all of us are going from sort of our little silos more to the awareness of the field. And that kind of synchronicity for me is always a little bit of a reflection that, oh, okay, it's more than just me feeling like I'm in the field. It's everybody on the call or everybody who was in the room at that moment, because we'd already had a pretty potent morning. So a little background, and then I'll share a couple images so you can kind of get the visual of the Star House, and a little bit about how we've worked with the toroidal field for, I would say, of the past 35 years. I think we started doing a particular activation that I'll show you a very brief animation of what the activation feels like. We've done that activation, I'm going to say for 12 years, anywhere from 20 to 45 people commit to doing it a couple of times a month. And it's a teacher for us, as I'm sure you all are experiencing, even in the presence of the towers, which I, by the way, am quite new to. So I'm very happy building my relationship with the tower that is now my housemate. And I feel like I'm learning a lot in a way, a more subtle way than what we do with the StarHouse, what we call the StarHouse activation, where the group embodies the toroidal field and really anchors it around the earth as well as the temple and around ourselves. So I love that pattern. And when Nico and a couple of the other Boulder people who've been working with towers came up to initially visit the StarHouse, they walked in and just immediately felt the presence of the template of the tower because it's so potent there. So what else to say? So the StarHouse was designed and built by my beloved partner, David, who passed a year and a half ago. And he and I got together in 1993 and really started to work with creating a modern day temple that was non-denominational, transcendent of dogmas, and just really found what was it that we as human beings share in terms of living on the planet. So we did a lot of new moon, full moon, solstice, equinox work, which we continue to this day. And then the geometries became a really essential part of what StarHouse was oriented to. Maybe I'll just go ahead and bring up the building so you don't have to wonder what it looks like.
Yes, definitely the picture is helpful for people to get the sense for it. There it is.
There she is. She's 12-sided, perfectly oriented to the four directions, and surrounded by very large standing stones, of which you can only see the one in the foreground and a couple in the background. Each standing stone is probably 5 to 7 feet tall and also that deep into the earth, grounded with the
Oh,
sacred.
hi. This is Brian from Redline, which I'm
Oh, yes,
with Terry Hardy.
speaking.
Hi, Sherry. Yeah,
Okay, there we go. So, so it's grounded by these stones that are also connected with the 7 sacred metals that align with the planet that rules that astrology sign. So 12-sided, 12 stones. Inside there are 12 posts that are dedicated to the zodiacal dancers, we call them. And oriented, we're looking directly through the front entrance, which is oriented to the north-south line. And the building was located in space using Polaris, which appears over this prow. I think of this point here as a prow. So if I'm standing right here on the top of this mound, any day of the year that I can see the stars, Polaris is right above that prow, directed to the north. So the orientation was quite perfect to north, south, east, west. When they were building this place, it was, I wasn't there, it was built in 1990, and David and I got together in 1993 and married in 95. But the building of it has its own mythos about how every board and window and stone was basically sewn to. And if ever there was any inharmony in the field of the building or the builders, the contractors, the agreement was that work would stop and people would go home or sit down and work it out. So that sort of is part of the harmonic of the place, that it was really dedicated to being a meeting point of seen and unseen, of community being willing to connect and share, and speaking from the heart. So a lot of the proportions of the building are related to sacred geometry, particularly 18. 18 being related to the moon node cycle, and everything is proportionate and created as a harmonic of both the 12 directions, the 4 directions, the above and the below. And then surrounding we've got about 100 acres to work with up here, being 10 minutes outside Boulder. That's kind of an amazing accomplishment at this stage, given how rapidly Boulder is expanding. But in the surrounding meadows and into the woods, there are, Patter mentioned the double tetrahedron swing, which is like the Merkaba that you can sit in and kind of have an amazing experience. It's also been in action for about 25 years. So all these places develop, as I'm sure we all are experiencing when the tower is present, it sort of opens the field to something that wasn't quite as accessible perhaps before. And that's been really true of these geometry tools. There's a dodecahedron meditation chamber that about 6 people can fit in. A labyrinth, a 7-fold labyrinth that people walk. A tetractys, which was Pythagoras, was one of his favorite tools for understanding geometries. So the landscape has been infused and worked with as a kind of a journeying opportunity. And then a lot of events happen at the StarHouse that include star wisdom and what else? Sacred sites. So here's a look at the inside. We try to keep the space very open. People can pull out lots of rugs and crystals and whatever they need, but the space itself is really dedicated to the earth. And the earth being really the only thing that is pretty much always there. It can be raised and lowered. Sometimes we take her all the way down to the rug in the bottom here and have a pool of water, and we might bathe her in water or milk and honey or whatever else calls to us. Okay, anything you want to jump into, Patter, before?
Yeah, Lila, tell them about the trees and the orientation of the trees.
Okay, the trees, that's a cool story. So you'll see these posts, I think there's 5 of them that are visible here. No, 6. We've got 6 of them here, and then the mirror reflection brings in the other 6. And let's see which one you can see. So this would be Capricorn, Pisces, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. This is the Pisces post. This over here is the Scorpio post. So Libra, Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. So each of these trees was chosen from the forest. You can kind of see out the back windows here. There's about 45 acres of ponderosa pine forest. And when one is a steward of land with that many trees, there's a kind of imperative to be tree thinning and managing, given that when the indigenous people would have been stewarding, there was a fair amount of natural fire that kept things kind of in the right balance. So tree thinning is kind of an interesting principle for managing a forest. So when David was looking for the posts to live in the StarHouse, he would go with these builders. Basically, they weren't New Agers. These were people who were, dedicated to building things. So he would intend for them to find the post or the tree growing that had a feeling of, so if he was looking for the Pisces post, a feeling of, connection, compassion, a kind of, watery presence or something like that. And they would tromp through the forest until, these builder people would find a tree and they'd all stand around it. And then they would mark it once they agreed that was the tree that was going to stand in this position. And then it would be placed in the StarHouse in exactly the same direction that it was growing in the forest. Because the sense was there's a sort of magnetic field that everything living holds, but particularly trees that have been oriented and full of life, but quite stagnant in their trunks, but have been facing the same direction for 40, 50 years, where most of these trees are concerned. So each tree was brought in to represent that particular astrological sign and placed in the direction that it grew in the forest. So little things like that, the intentionality of it all is something that was just so profoundly present from the beginning. And then once the space was complete, it was dedicated in 1990. And starting in 1993, my background had been very much related to community building and new moon, full moon celebrations, that kind of thing. So David and I had a 30-year amazing partnership of really how to learn from a space that met a community like Boulder, which is quite eclectic and, you know, strong in having the one Buddhist university in the Western world called Naropa, a lot of yoga, a lot of Jewish renewal, Sufism, a lot of pagans, and we really wanted to find a way to create a sacred space that held universal principles so people could just come and bring what was really passion for them or sacred for them and join in a community process without feeling that they were being heralded by some other belief system other than the one that was true for them. So that's been a premise of the central pillar of the StarHouse from the beginning, and the geometries had started to evolve, certainly in the building of it, and continue. So the connection that we all had to the toroid field was something, I would say 12, 13 years ago that we start to pay attention to. How that worked in our physical body. Heart math was already, I think, starting to do some of that work. I'm sure other geometers around the world were as well. It's certainly a pattern that's been known for some time, but popular, way more popular in these last 10 years or so. So we began to look at what was it that was universal for us as humans and towards developing a community process. So maybe I'll stop there for a second and just see if there's any engagement or connection that people would like to make.
I hope that you guys are seeing already, like, then that it's obvious to you that there's just this deep, like, essential connection between the cosmic towers and the StarHouse. It's like these guys physically manifested a spot on Earth on these 35 acres and then connected it, or maybe it was from the beginning 100 acres, but they've got these multiple parcels. And when you go around the land, it's not just the StarHouse, like the other structures that they built, like definitely like top of my list for next time we go is the dodecahedron. Like I gotta go meditate in that thing. Like that just, it looks amazing. And there's a power tower that's got a little bit of a cosmic tower flair to it. And then there's a well, and there's a grandfather tree, and then I don't know what you call the section that's got like the basic building blocks of sacred geometry, the different poles, and then the
Tetractys. Yep.
the tetractys.
Tetractys. Yeah. It's like 10 dots, 1, 2, 3, 4. So from any point of the triangle, they go 1, 2, 3, 4. Pythagoras loved that shape. So we built it as like a interactive sculpture that people can walk through.
So the land just kind of invites you to have experiences, and that's what I find so interesting. I also found like really interesting like the depth of the quiet and the alignment within me as I experienced this. And so, you know, we're here to explore as a community the alignment between cosmic towers and the StarHouse. Lila, I want to, before we go to Karen's question, I just want to like specifically focus you on sharing your mission of the StarHouse now that we've talked about the structure.
Okay, Karen, do you want to ask your question with your hand raised there before we launch into that?
Well, just a few comments. Patter, you need to get closer to your microphone because I cannot hear you very well. Sorry. And this is fascinating. And so retreats, how do we get there? What you know, that's what. And my third question is, I am appreciating my own house. We built our own house, And we talked to the lumber, and he says, oh yeah, because we wanted posts, right? I know where there's a tree, oak tree big enough. He's wanted oak, right? In the woods. So he went and he hunted down these huge oak trees for columns in our house. So I'm really appreciating what you went through to find the trees, to talk to it, and to, and then to feel the energy of it, and then to put it in the position where it was. I mean, that is just a lot of planning, a lot of dedication, but what a creation. That's just amazing. So that's all my comments. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the StarHouse mission and vision is really a dedication to weaving Earth, stars, and human hearts, and to find just the way of being in right relationship with seasonal and celestial celebrations, and just bringing people back into a direct knowing. And we're in a massive one of those revamps, so a lot of things are going to look different than they look on the website right now, which is the starhouse.org. But a lot of things are there. We do a lot of partner programs as well. We don't generate everything from within our organization, but we're looking at doing a bit more of that and finding just the ways to do what, I mean, the more Patter and I spent time together, to do more of the kind of consciousness raising that allows for a community to have more of those kinds of coincidences or correspondent emerging moments of the field, being in awareness of the fact that we really are all connected. So when I started looking more at the tower's mission statement and getting a sense of what it was like to live with my tower, to agree on a way that the StarHouse could have one of the 7-foot towers, we started to realize, okay, there's something here that we could all collectively explore more together, which for me is where it gets exciting. It's like, we obviously don't have all the answers. We have our particular slice of a pie that we've been working with, and to find sort of this consonance in a field of people who are literally looking into some of the same patterns is really exciting. So Patter and I and our admin directors landed on a date for June 12th, 13th, and 14th, just over 6 months from now, to have a conference, collaborative exploration that will happen up here and primarily be focused on the towers, as well as, yeah, how do we all wake up to the next level of our calling, our dharma, our collective way of being with the technologies, but really with the consciousness that's going to make the biggest difference.
Yeah, I think we have a premise that by gathering 50 or so, maybe 60, 50 to 60 people in the space for a conversation, something is going to emerge from that. And we don't know exactly what, just like we didn't know what would emerge in that brainstorm session when I visited. It's just trusting the space and the process and allowing that to happen. So there are, regarding the June 12th, 13th, 14th event, the intention is that the people there are world leaders. And when we say that, world leaders mean to us people who are on the cutting edge of developing their own heart, or their own entrepreneurial business, or their own educational platform, or who knows what. They don't have to be anything special. They just have to be one of the people that knows they're supposed to be there. Those are the world leaders to have that conversation with. So we are, if you guys know anybody who's a profound geometer, or somebody who is, maybe there's something with sound healing that somebody's doing, or any of those type of things. If you know people like that and somebody comes to mind, just connect us, and I'll invite them myself to the event. And if you feel that you're one of the people that's supposed to be there, then you can also let us know that too, because I'm sure that there will be people from all different walks of life. And there will also be other opportunities to get to know the StarHouse and what they are teaching and modeling in multiple different ways, and I think ways that are still emerging. So for a starting point, there's the School of Souls that you're launching in 2026, which will be online courses, and I would wholeheartedly encourage us as the Wellness Enterprise community to learn more about that. And when they launch, we'll be sure to have announcements about it so you guys know about it. And then there's the event, and then there's what you guys do on a weekly basis. Like, I think this would be a great time now to show a few bit more slides and to show how you guys work with the tourists on a weekly basis, because I think you all have a recognition as a community that's like adopted Cosmic Towers and are around that this tourist spin is important. But Lila and her community are out there like actually activating a tourist spin in their space weekly, and you can feel the effect of that. Let me see what Jennifer wrote also. Could someone explain how we would connect our tower with the tower at StarHouse? What would be a good intention for doing so? Jennifer, I'm going to hold that until we have Lila like share all of her slides, because I think that's kind of the looking into the future, like what do we do with this meeting and these ideas? It's a perfect question.
That's the perfect question. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, that's exactly where the last slide will land. I've just got like 5 minutes at the most here, and then I would love to be, like exploring how does this ignite for you all. So I'm going to start with an image that probably most everybody has seen over time. It sort of originated, I believe, with heart math, and then I found a way to animate it because it's the personal version, how the toroid works.
Love that.
In both directions, right? So kind of based on that, how do we bring that into a space was sort of our ongoing inquiry. So this is a short 4-minute excerpt from what we call the activation, and then I'll say a little more about it after the fact.
This is what you guys practice every Sunday morning.
The StarHouse activation sequence, by envisioning the vortices that are marked by the great standing stones. We walk the standing stones either in our imagination or whenever we can on the land, honoring the stones in this instance with the eurythmy gesture for Pisces. And then we continue around the zodiacal wheel, honoring each and every stone in the Father-Mother vortex before we enter the StarHouse itself, continuing the vortex. Feeling us becoming like a river of light as we move together. Left arm up, right arm into the earth, calling in the mother vortex together with an ah. Feel that vortex continue as we pause into stillness, imagining that the vortex continues around us. Now we reverse direction, right hand up, calling in the Father vortex with an E. And now pause and feeling that movement, and we call in both vortices together.
Jump right into the toroid pattern which exists in your body. You stream it up through the sky over the top and then down deep into the earth. Now it goes back through the earth as you move to the left, and it goes up at the periphery, and it comes through the sky and then down, gushing down into the earth through the center, back through the ground, way back, and then up again and down. This is so wonderful. This form exists in your body, research has shown, this energy form, and now you can learn it by moving it. The first toroid, and there is a second one. It actually starts going down through the earth towards the center, and then gushing up like a geyser right into the center, gushing up into the heavens, and then moving back through the heavens as you move to the right, back to the heavens, cascading like a waterfall down at the edge, and then now through the floor again, up through the center like a geyser, through the sky, back again, through the ground, and up again like a geyser. You will learn much by practicing this pattern, which we do every day. Up in the center.
Our next step in this activation is then to construct the 4 tetrahedra around the earth. And using the StarHouse as a temple, as an altar, as well, zodiacal signs. So this becomes a look at the pattern if you took the walls away, and you can see the father-mother vortex sort of spinning. The principle being that astrophysics and cell biologists will basically say that around any spherical cell, planet, galaxy, that these patterns are universal, including the toroidal pattern. I'm not sure that would be true. I think that of the double tetrahedron, I think that's sort of our projected way of working with the 4 elements, and building these constructs for the earth to kind of experience like she could nest in a balance. So everything we just did might take us 20 minutes if we're doing it in person, which we do every Sunday morning. And we do it twice a month on Zoom calls, and then people do it as they feel called in their own meditation, to build what esotericists would call a thought form. So this is my version of what that thought form looks like. And then once we've created that, then the directive, so to speak, or the inspiration has been to place it over different places in the world that, how to say this, that maybe are calling for harmony, or not with the intention to make anything happen in terms of how people might be aligned politically, socially, whatever, but to invite the unseen world to work with this offering that comes from the heart of those of us who are seeing it as a way of praying with geometry. That's kind of a phrase I've been gravitating to more and more, to use geometry as prayer rather than help, help, send light to this place. It's like we'll construct this and then invite the unseen world, however that might be in a cosmology, the folk souls of nations or the angelic realm or the elementals, to work with the energy that we're gifting. And we were envisioning this being the map from the Cosmic Tower location of the wellness site, that, you know, I could envision creating animations that would bring all of us into more of an alignment of how, when the fields of the towers are connected with toroidal fields, my sense is that sort of central to that, there would be like a higher octave of how that energy, maybe it's sort of like the animation on the website when the tower is being shown, a sort of sprinkling of light that's working with the field radius of each tower. So that's about as far as I've gone with how this conversation can begin to unfold. And all I can say is that I feel this kind of acceleration in my field and an excitement about how to pursue think of it as a laboratory of consciousness, like how to bring ideas and experiences and keep weaving a coherent field using universal principles, of which certainly the toroid and the towers are capturing that.
Well, your exploration is coming together. Um, I want to share my personal experience of watching that little video. Is that in the same way that I was altered by visiting the land, I am also altered again right now, and I'm curious to hear from our small group here whether other people were altered by watching that video too. Like, does your state of being feel different? Karen shaking her head yes. Just the people that like felt it clearly, because I'm curious as we meet the world with this, how like do 10% of the people or 50% of the people have a meaningful experience? So anybody want to share verbally and or just have some way of letting me know that you were altered by it or not, which is fine too. Just looking for the truth. Yeah, go ahead, Zane. And Marcia next.
Yes, I felt it was like the experience of being a Taurus, a toroidal field. I just felt very engaged with it. To see it visually and then begin to feel it, the swirls and opposite directions and everything, it was just beautiful. So it was uplifting to me. So to feel what it feels like to be a Taurus. That
Yeah,
beautiful space, magnificent. Thank you.
beautiful. How about you, Marcia? How did it feel for you? Oh, hang on, sweetheart. You know the drill. I just asked you to unmute. There you go. Oh, it didn't click. You got the right idea. There you go.
Okay. I just felt very, very peaceful. And I felt like I was not even on this earth, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
I felt like it was not earthbound, or I
Perfect.
was earthbound.
Perfect.
Thank
So
you so much.
yeah, so at least four of us, right? Karen by show of hands, and Zane and Marcia and I and Jennifer. So at least half of us, Lila, at least like more than half are having like this meaningful transformational experience just from being in the presence of either the sacred geometry physically, my experience being there, or now just looking at it online. It's always resonated with me that when I learned about sacred geometry, I was taught that it was the language of the creator. So like we're having an agreement to speak to one another in English today, and the creator is speaking to us in sacred geometry. We just can't necessarily like feel it or see it as easily. So we don't see the torus around a tree necessarily until somebody takes a photo of it and starts to show us where the lines would come in and up the roots and up the trunk and out the top, and then all of a sudden the tree starts to make more sense. And so the hypothesis here is that there's a synergy that's being created by bringing the templates of the StarHouse that have been intentionally cultivated for 35 years. It's a long time. It's a lot of intention, and marrying that in some way to the cosmic tower network, possibly just by intention. But this idea of sacred geometry prayers, where we're not trying to cause peace in the Middle East. We're just noticing that this coherent life that we're seeing and wanting to strengthen has deformities and out of places, and so we simply send coherence to it. We visualize coherence there. That to me feels like so simple and aligned and like really of the essence. Like it's so simple to say, but I think it could be as powerful as anything we could possibly do. This we find out together, which is why taking the temperature of the room and seeing how many people are altered just by looking at the moving geometry, I think is important. So Jennifer, I happen to know that you're really intuitive and you're pretty connected. So I wonder if you'll play with me with the very question that you asked, right? So now that you're hearing the unfolding of, okay, so we can take the intentions of the StarHouse templates and the Cosmic Tower and begin to spread the StarHouse's lessons to the world simply by carrying it in the geometry of the Cosmic Tower network, right? That's part of where we go. Can you dialogue with me and like affirm that feels right to you, or can you deepen it or add a question or a comment that might help spin us in a slightly different direction?
Well, that feels right to me. I guess I'm not very, I guess, practiced with connecting my tower to other towers. I haven't actually tried to do it before. So I've only had it for a few months. And I guess that's why I was like, well, how do you, is there like a process to do that? But I love the idea of doing that and having multiple towers connected with this, StarHouse, and being able to enhance or put that energy, more of that energy out into the world, because it is very peaceful. I had, a really nice experience watching the video. It kind of reminded me of like watching like the energy of Tai Chi, where people are just in that Zen zone and then everything is just flowing so beautifully.
Yeah. Thank you for what you shared. So, I think we're evolving as a community. Like we're becoming the next more complex version of ourselves, the next deeper sacred geometry shape. And so if you look at the inception of the Cosmic Tower project, like 3 years in Europe, riding on the back of Harald, who was just this force of nature. I mean, 25,000 towers in 3 years is just literally mind blowing. And now we're about 3 years in the US, we have like 1,000 towers. That gives you a sense of how powerful a force Harald was. But now there's this new momentum for those that don't, I guess it's not really publicly shared yet, but we're in contractual exchanges right now with the court appointed people in Germany to purchase all of the inventory that was created during Harald's life, because he created so much we couldn't possibly buy it all when we started the project. But now that we've had the road trip and we have some more resources and more strength ourselves, we're like, well, we've got to go secure all of those towers and make sure that they get implemented into the global network. So inside of that all evolving and the foundation now being much firmer, it makes sense that very question you just had in the middle of what you shared, like, I've never thought about connecting my tower to the other towers because we weren't ready yet for an integrated whole network, but now we are. And so, Lila, I'm gonna lean back on you here on the cutting edge of something that's never been created before. And I know you don't have a pre-prepared answer for this, but it's like if we look at your decades of experience with intention around the StarHouse and think about bringing those templates and the Cosmic Towers together, like what comes up for you? Like what?
Thanks. I love that inquiry, and I think it's kind of at the heart of this laboratory. And part of my question would be, is it actually connecting the towers, or is it connecting to a field that the towers are sort of acupuncture points for? And would that be something that would kind of bring like a higher octave of that unified field? My sense is yes, and I think it would just take some exploration. I would love to know, a little bit more about some of the other explorations that have gone on in terms of like impacting water and clearing lakes and rivers, and that kind of thing feels like it would offer some insights into that question. For me, there's a metaphor in all this that has to do with the idea of constellations. I've been playing around with a term, quantum constellations. Like if any of you have worked with some of the Hellinger work of family constellations, where it starts to become so profound in the room when somebody is working out a family pattern that they may not even know of, and a complete stranger might be standing there tuning into that person's great grandparent, and suddenly something in the field shifts. And my knowing, it's beyond a belief, my knowing is that that's what we're being asked to do from a level of the field that we haven't quite had enough experience with, but the same principle feels like it would apply. And other factors could be worked into it. So maybe it's at the moment of a new moon or a significant full moon that there's some kind of agreement field that we would focus on a particular pattern or message from the star beings or something, and then work with the field to just bring that down a few octaves. Those are just some
I love it. I love it. And, I would throw out there like even an intention for June 12th to the 14th in Boulder with that event, that by then we know how to clarify our intention and how to specifically enlarge the vision and the dialogue so that we're really talking about different energy fields for Earth, like becoming connected and us becoming aware of it by virtue of our intent to know.
Mhm.
I like the breadth of that and the potential for that as a contribution to really creating more coherence in this plane. I think that's right on. Karen, thank you for your patience.
It's just beautiful to be with in this conversation that's way over my head, but beautiful. And what if all of that is possible, right? It's just everything is energy. And what if we're just touching the tip of the iceberg? That's so very little of our awareness, right? Just tapping in. I want to go back to what Jennifer had said about Tai Chi energy. It's that same thing. And that light bulb went off. I was like, that's right. Because when I would play my Tai Chi or DVDs in without even watching it, I could feel after a while the energy in the space is moving as their hands are moving and doing their movements. The energy and it's swirling in my house, and it just shifts everything. And I don't even have to be doing anything. It's coming through. So, anyways, I just wanted to thank Jennifer for that comment, and thank you for this wonderful conversation of greater possibilities and infinite possibilities. Thank you very
That's
much.
beautiful. Thanks, Karen. One of the things I hear in what she just shared, Lila, is that there's a component of who's to be there in June that includes sound. People who are studying sound and can somehow bring something between the concept of in the beginning there was the word, like we could have a preacher of sorts who's really studied the history of that type of thing, to people who are making solfeggio frequencies and other harmonic sounds and how they inform and create space. That feels like a part of the conversation that's really obvious in Karen's share.
Great.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, kind of light and sound are sort of the understood, with sound being even the, slightly, if one's using a hierarchy, a slightly higher frequency than light. So yes, for sure.
Beautiful. Okay, Jordan. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, go ahead.
What experiences have people had with um, having a communion with the elements or elementals that at the StarHouse that they haven't experienced it, I'll call it in their home space.
That's a lovely inquiry. I can respond as a person. I can't really respond as the StarHouse. I feel like my experience of being, and it's a part of my morning practice to connect with the elements, to kind of weave together this whole dance, which includes the toroids and the four tetrahedra of each of the elements. And there was a point I'm going to digress for a minute, where David and I were spending, we spent a lot of time in Tasmania in Australia and had this opportunity to live at the base of a sacred mountain on a tiny island. And the mountain itself felt to me like a living temple of Atlantean or Lemurian, probably more Lemurian kind of presence and consciousness. It was the strongest place I've ever been on Earth, and no one knew about it. So we kind of had that sense of, wow, we're kind of the two people who kind of remembered who you might really be. And part of the mentoring that happened was through weather. And that the elementals on this particular island were so wild and free and unused to humans, which is not the same in the US and definitely not the same in Europe, where they've been kind of contained, and, in the US, a little less so than Europe, but way more so than they are on this island that we inhabited for some time. And so there was this feeling of like, when we would do our alignment and our patterning, which even at that point was including toroidal vortices and the geometries of the tetrahedra, when we were in that more elevated place, we would explore inviting the elementals to be in direct connection. And I just have to say, way more than was statistically possible did we start to feel like there was a giving and a receiving, a listening and a request, an invitation. Some of us may have had some understanding from old esoteric sort of theosophy books, like the wizard commanding the elements. That was not my prompt at all. My prompt was inviting them. Hey, if it's right for you and it feels right, we could really use a little rain here on the island, or that kind of thing, as opposed to commanding, which is the way a lot of wizards were taught. And I think even shamanically, there's different traditions where it's more dominator and less invitational. So for me, there's something, I think, to respond more to that question about being in a frequency where I'm not knowing what's supposed to happen in terms of the intelligence that is beyond my mind's ability to know, but I'm certainly invited to invite, and to be, again, like that acupuncture point for the planet. And I just found that the more the invitation was open and good-hearted, the more there was a connection. So to build a bridge between, mostly on the phone calls that we do twice a month, where a group of 45 people have committed to stand with one astrological post in the StarHouse for a year, and to build a relationship with that element, that particular signature of the element, of which there would be 3 of each of the 4 elements, right? So fire being, Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. And each one, even though they're all fire, each one has a unique expression. So to learn from that, to just basically do whatever reading or research, look at the night sky, meditate with whatever a person is guided to. And then when we look at, like when we were looking at the hurricane over Jamaica and Cuba, so we would put up maps on the PowerPoint and, again, invite the energies that understand the intelligence of whatever's going on that needs to happen or that could be averted. And it's just the invitation. I don't think there's any way to measure what that outcome is. I just know that there's something that shifts for me very personally from being, whether it's that kind of circumstance or, political, financial, climate change, the different challenges that we're all facing. I know I feel way more empowered when I become a vessel for something related to the geometries, the generative energy of a toroid field, and then combined with the synergy of a group working together, that suddenly I know something's happening and I don't know how to measure that. So that's the best I can do in response to it. I think it's a really living inquiry and an important one.
That was beautiful. I'm taking notes for our invitation for June and our articulation. And I think this idea of inviting a higher form of consciousness, and then also recognizing and like wanting to affirm you, Lila, like the part that says, I don't know how to measure that. Well, we took a measurement in this room and we got that more than half the people are impacted. And that's more than enough. You know, that really is more than enough. We don't need more than that to just know that it's right in humanity, that like a section of us is brought together by intention, and then we say, yes, this matters for us. Like, I mean, I don't think the new earth or the new grids or the new whatever energetic that we live in, I don't think it's like proven by science. I don't think that's the dialogue. The dialogue is that we simply shift and we feel alignment and we know that the world is right. And well, I don't want anything more than that. I'm not aware of wanting more than that. That feels like plenty. So love it. Shelley, thanks for coming today and your patience. Please go ahead.
Yes, thanks for the invitation. And I just want to say, I had the 750 at the Ultimate Light Mission on the tower, and then I had the smaller one at my house. It's like once the one got installed at the mission that was larger, a few miles away from where I live, and I come home and I'm standing in front of my other tower, and it's like I can feel the pull. And I thought, well, I'm just going to pull out my dowsing rods and play with this energy line and see what's coming through, because intent wise, I had already intended for them to connect. And of course, it's like I'm walking, I'm asking the rods to show me the connection and the pull and stuff and the direct line of their connection. And it's extremely powerful, extremely strong. They just open wide, and show you that pull every time that you want to walk through there and just, play with it. And so, and I know some other people have towers that have done their intentional settings of connecting their towers to the 750 tower too. And it's like, I mean, I can feel the weaving and the webbing. And at the mission, we will do events called like conscious conversations, where we're having those difficult conversations sometimes, depending on what people want to bring up. And it always, we've always had it where they're very respectful, very good, very enlightening and uplifting by the time you leave, no matter how difficult the conversations. But I had one person in particularly start talking to me about a topic that she had been having some issues with. And she was very nervous and, to bring it out and to actually talk about it. And as we're talking, I could just see her taking steps. But the bulk of the conversation ended up happening right directly in front of the tower. And that's where she felt comfortable to stop and have that conversation. And it wasn't lost on me. I'm like, oh, she's going directly into the line of the tower for this conversation. And it was beautiful.
That is beautiful. For those of you who might be wondering if there's now a 750 centimeter tower, because Shelley's been saying that, let me confirm that Shelley's got the 250 tower. And
oh, 250. I'm sorry, I said that wrong.
So yeah, the 250 is still the biggest one in the US.
Funny to me, because I was like, I can't afford those.
little over 8 feet tall. So, and then I think she has the 75 at home. So
yes.
The two together makes a lot of sense. But I love that you're experimenting with the energy field between them. And now like more of this as a community, right? More of understanding, like now that we have this modern sacred site that we know about, we visualized it, we've seen it on this call, it's in Boulder, like Lila's there, and there's a whole community of people hosting events there physically all the time. They have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 events a week, and they're really, really busy. So that spot exists on the earth, and now these fields that, thanks to Shelley choosing for Sedona to bring a 250 in there after we did our presentation there on the road trip. Now we have the big one in Sedona again, and then there are an increasingly large number of smaller ones in Sedona. So we have these overlapping energy fields. I say we just keep giving it more intention. We keep being curious about it, and we keep asking it to inform us of higher consciousness and higher awareness, and share our openness and our desire. Like I feel that's a really powerful path for us. If anybody's visiting Sedona, the Ultimate Light Mission has a 250, and it's a public place, and I'm sure Shelley would love to welcome you in her space.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, other questions or comments?
I wonder if somebody could reflect a little bit on this sort of theme of inquiry about how do towers connect, and how might we kind of refine the inquiry about all that as it relates to some of the experiences that have been happening with water.
Yeah. Mike T, I know sometimes you're at work and unavailable to participate in the dialogue, and sometimes you can. If you are available, there he's unmuted. So Mike has led a project to work with the towers and water. So Mike, you want to take a first crack at commenting on this?
Yeah, just a brief one. And sorry, I cannot share my face without camera working properly. So basically, the idea of the project, which we called technically Bodies of Water project, was to check and to explore the opportunity of having the energy fields of the cosmic tower, connected energy field, to help natural bodies of water to maintain the energy levels in the height state. So it has been for about 2 years now, and I would say that the project had some success. So we actually have been measuring a number of natural bodies of water located in different areas of the United States and the rest of the world. And they measured relatively high to the average measurement of like a standard lake or river. And basically, Nico Martins has been involved in this project as well from the very beginning. And there was another couple of people as well. And we have been using the methods of biogeometry, which helped us to technically sort of to maintain those measurements and to be able to compare different measurements of different bodies of water to each other.
Would you say that the mechanism of connection between the towers and the water is human intent?
Absolutely. There is nothing else which connects the energy field. So you basically, you set up in the intent. There is no specific rules how to do that. You basically go into meditative state, make sure you're well hydrated when you do that, right? So you might have a cosmic tower near to you or any other energy supportive device. And you basically put your intent and do the connections, basically the invitation sent out into the space. So I usually do it through if I want to invite a new body of water to join the project, basically. So first thing I do the muscle test to get a specific permission, because we treat any lake, any river, any sea, whatever body of water is, as the living energy system. So we are connecting with them and asking for permission if they are in the state of willingness to join the group. So, and if that is yes, there is a short funny ritual of invitation. And after that, the biogeometry tools are in play. So we are using those to measure the actual BG3 level of energy field in these bodies of water, and they're pretty stable.
Beautiful. Mike, since you were the originator of that project, and so the intention that grew out of it really came from you, I want to leave you with a question today, which is if it feels like an area of interest to you, to contemplate the union between the StarHouse and the cosmic towers and water, and whether there is something specific for us to focus on or no. Like I feel like any question you would come up with would help us on our path to understanding why we've come together and what we're here to do. So if that's of interest to you to explore, I'd love to hear what you come up with.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm thinking about a couple of things, but definitely we should be connecting offline after this call. And a couple of ideas just came into the mind. So I'm looking at the map of the Boulder, Colorado now. I'm just, I was able to find the StarHouse, and there are few bodies of water around the place. And if Lila wants, we can sort of connect and run another experiment. So basically, I'm happy to invite those bodies of water around your place, which are probably will be in a 2 miles radius. I can see a number of lakes, reservoirs, and other things in the vicinity. So we can start from this. And after that, I'll also have a couple of other ideas, which I can probably share after we finish this call, because they are not in the public space yet. But I would be happy to discuss if there is an interest in sort of in exploring and experimenting with different tools in addition to the Cosmic Tower network to sort of to raise the energy field around your place. I would be happy to help and to discuss that. Of course, if you are interested and if you feel like this is something you would like to explore.
Oh, I'm a full yes. Unconditional
Wonderful.
yes. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Won-
Well,
Wonderful.
thank you for all that. And I think that you and also the previous response about using dowsing rods and the biogeometry tools and muscle testing and pendulums, I think all those things are highly related. And Boulder's been very very supportive because Gaia is here and has done a series with Robert Gilbert's work and also with Ibrahim Karim coming and being so honored. I think that there's a lot of intersection and knowing that Nico also had studied with him. So I'm very, very curious, and I'm starting to do more of my homework about what do those tools have to bring. And it sounds like they're ones that you, Mike, are familiar with, and other people on the call as well. Because I think that's where some of this technological interface, these things are all sort of emerging in the field of people who are now really interested in making use of them for harmonizing. So I'm just really excited.
That's great. Thank you for that, Lila, and thank you for your contributions. Mike's, just so you know, for background information, so the Wellness Enterprise and the StarHouse have determined that it's so important to have a Cosmic Tower 220 in Boulder at their location that we have a donor who has contributed about 20% of the value of a tower, and the Wellness Enterprise is accepting that as full deposit, and we're shipping a 220 today, tomorrow, or the next day. And then we will fundraise for the rest. The StarHouse is a nonprofit, and if any of you are ever inspired to support their work, you're of course welcome to. They run pretty close to the red and black line, usually a little on the south side of it. So anything, if you're inspired to help their work, do go to their website and do contribute and do all those things, and we'll figure out how to get enough of a payment toward that tower over time. The money's not as important as the impact. And so, Mike, as you're looking at the things that come to mind for you, just know that a tower will be there in about a week. So
beautiful. That's wonderful, Patrick.
Yeah.
You're making all of us happy, right? So you know that.
That's great. Well, we love placing big towers, and the cold weather's coming, and there's not a lot of weeks left to go ahead and get this thing shipped and get it installed. So Lila, over the weekend, talked to each of the 8 people who live in the home called Morningstar, where this will go in the living room. That's where I had the profound experience that I described to you guys at the beginning of the call. And that's where the 220 is going. So they're going to get the opportunity to work with it as a community, and it's going to enhance their work beautifully. Okay, Jordan, go ahead.
Yes, I think that the Cosmic Tower, it changes what you're a match for, where she gave me the name. My Cosmic Tower 75 gave me the name after several months, Christy. And I had a need so that I would always be in that energy field. So, I arranged with the Wellness Enterprise to do a payment plan for who I call Lil Christie. I didn't take her to Mexico where I felt like I had to go there right away sooner than I had budgeted for. I thought, but I felt like I had to go there. And what ended up happening, I left Lil Christie at home, trusting that I would be protected, but didn't really think about it. And the hotel just happened to put me in a room that was in the energy field and right across from a real like ancient temple sites that's a federal historic site in that country. And when I was talking with one of the staff, you know, based on what I'd been doing morning and night, like a violet flame meditation for protection, and a tube of light or protective tornado of energy. And then that hotel staff member told me that he saw it. Uh, that he was meditating at the same time I was, closed his eyes, and he said he thanked me for the experience. And then I knew, oh, that it just happened that I was in a rush so that the nurses could come and to the property, which has a guard gate, and there were some hiccups, but where they placed me, I think that it, because of Christy and little Christy, that exact room where the other staff members would comment, "Oh, what a great room you got!" Like, oh, okay. I thought, oh, okay. So I didn't ask for it. I was completely focused. I need to get there and get that treatment, and uh, and then as things unfolded, uh, then it became clear what it was. And once I was home, I had a little flashback of me using they have a fully stocked kitchen, one of their kitchen pans, saucepans to make rice. So then I started cooking at home. Because before I wasn't able to cook or do certain normal activities of daily living. And it was a lot easier over there, and somehow just the energetics worked out in that way that I realized what it was. And it's not advertised. The hotel advertises, "Oh, look at what a great vacation spot we are." They don't advertise that.
Mhm. Well, that's great. I'm glad you're having the experience. It sounds like you're exploring vibrational match, and that you're experiencing a harmony in your vibration, and then that's becoming a part of who you are, and
Yeah.
starting to see like a connectedness among things. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, more experiencing it firsthand rather than, you know, I would I would like to be so focused that I could invite it and do those things, but just the way that my mind works, it's a little bit, faster paced.
Yep. Yep. Well, I had an experience of going to Dallas 2 weeks ago, and while I went, I did two things that I don't normally do. The first is I complained a lot about having to travel again, and the second was that I didn't take a tower with me. And so I sat on this plane as a woman connected her knee to my lower back about 150 times, and then I left my water bottle on the plane, and then I lost my wallet the next day, and then and then and then and then and then and I got into the hotel that night, and I noticed that I started to settle, and I was like, huh, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling like that's over. And the next day when I got with the community, I realized that there was a cosmic tower on the floor below me. And so I came back into the field without being aware of somebody else that already traveled with it there. So we get all sorts of lessons on this. I definitely being mindful of not complaining anymore. that was expensive complaining. Okay, Shelley, go ahead.
On the connecting of the towers, what was kind of coming to me is basically having something in mind as, as long as the connection is mutually accepted and mutually beneficial, I approve the connection. It's kind of just allowing it to be there, but it needs to be mutual for the connection to take place for each tower, that it's in a mutual coherence and resonance that's going on at the time. And once that resonance is met, they can automatically connect.
I love that, Shelley. I think that that's right in the vein of both the invitation and also the intention, right? To create more coherence and relationship. I mean, to me, so much about what is going on right now is about conscious relationship between all things. We've all been talking about the unified field and how all things are connected. And yet sometimes for me, I notice I may not always consciously make those bridges. So I really like what you're saying, because I think that's one of the ways, for me, knowing, as I mentioned, a little disclaimer that I'm still, a month or two into getting to know what is generating this field from my tower, whose name is Yumi. And Yumi is just sort of being very gentle in the tutoring process, but I'm realizing that it has so much to do with me inviting and creating connection to the molecules of the water, to the sacred springs that I understand that water came from, and realizing that there's something about this living synchronicity, with that element, and then with the beauty of the structure itself that's containing it, and the crystals, and all that's involved. And I think, Patter, you made clear that it's not just about putting towers down all over the country. They need to be in relationship with human intention, and the more we can refine that intention, I think the more we'll start understanding the impact it has.
Yeah, the concept you've spoken of on this call twice, I think, of pillars of light is something that's come up over the last couple of months, and one I want to echo, that these are pillars of light. And then also want to remind all of us of the story of the creation of these towers, which Nico has told many times, but it's that Harold's, the inventor's son, came in just completely connected to upstairs. And at one point he turned to his father and he says, "Daddy, you remember why we're gathered together to be together in this lifetime?" And Harold says, "Well, no, but I imagine you're about to tell me." And he says, "Yes, we're here to build the new light grid for the Earth. And you're the mechanical engineer with the hands that can manipulate things, and I can talk to upstairs." And so the two of them work together to manifest these towers. So really, really amazing that idea of creating the new light grid. I've heard a lot of people talk over the last 20 years about working on the light grid, and it's always felt somehow inaccessible to me. It was usually a woman, usually wearing flowy clothes and carrying crystals, and a certain way of being. And then the working on the light grid was either by herself or with some sisters who are equally specialized, and they do that dialogue, and it's never felt accessible. And one of the things I love about what's emerging here is that we're just regular people. We're just here saying, I have an intention for a more coherent, energetic field for humanity, and I think I can make a difference somehow by showing up with intent and focused presence. It's just that simple. That's what we're doing. So just so you know, Lila, Mike T just biogeometry measured the StarHouse to get it before. So he's excited to get an after real soon, and I will connect you guys after the call. Okay, we're pretty far in. This has been a lively conversation. Does anybody have a last question or comment? think it's time to wrap. And obviously, this is a big conversation. It's going to be going on between now and June. I do want to remind you guys to go to the StarHouse website. I want you to watch for the launch of the School of Souls. We one company have been working on that for a long time, and this is now a sister community. So we want to keep you informed of what they're doing. We just encourage you to be aware and to hang out with them and take their courses and hold them in your heart and play with them, so we all grow together. Anybody else want to throw anything in?
I'm going to just throw in a big thank you. Thank you, Patter, for being such a lovely host and easy co-creator. I'm enjoying getting to know you and this community as well, because I do feel there is a strong resonance, and already starting to get that little thrill feeling when I think about June.
Well, that's great. Well, we recognize you. We see you. You belong here. We want to be with you. We want you to come back, and just take your place in our community. We'll take our place in yours. Soon we won't remember that there were two separate ones to begin with. So I think that's the perfect note to wrap on. So really appreciate you all being here, and it's such a lively conversation. And it's time to say au revoir until next month. Nico's off in Germany today. He's starting tomorrow at the Dietrich Klinghardt event that runs through the end of the week. And so he and the maker of the towers are there together and meeting the public, which is very exciting for our European community. So I don't know if he'll be back next month to participate in this call with me, but whether he does or he doesn't, we'll have something awesome to do. We look forward to seeing you guys again then.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye for now, guys. Take care.
Okay. Goodbye. Thank you. Blessings.